So now we know how to create the perfect prompt and how to generate an API key to use our prompt outside of Google AI Studio, right? So in this particular video, we'll be building a code base in Python from scratch, which will accept a particular topic as an input and write us a hundred words or 150 words blog post for us for that particular topic. So we'll be doing this from scratch. We'll first write the prompt inside Google AI Studio, a chat prompt. Then we'll generate an API key, and then inside of Google Colab, we'll try to integrate that code and see how it runs. So the first step in our journey would be to create the perfect prompt. So for this particular use case, a chat based prompt makes sense. So I'll click on create new prompt and chat prompt. So we are inside the chat prompt creation screen. So I'll just name it pretty quickly as a blog post generator. Okay, and I'll hit on save. So here for this blog post generator, we want Gemini to be the most creative. So that is why I will keep the temperature as 1, and the model Google Gemini 1.5 Pro makes sense, right? And for the safety settings, I'll say that just block most of the dangerous content and stuff. Okay. So now that we are ready, the first thing that we have to do is establish the tone and the style instructions for the model. So what we can write is act as an experienced blogger who knows about all the topics in this world. Okay. You will be receiving you will be receiving a blog post topic as an input, and you have to write a crisp and humanly toned blog post, right? Do not make up fake stuff and try to be very factual and quote stats related to that topic if possible to make the end result accurate. Okay, so what we have told Gemini is to act like an experienced blogger. Okay, and who knows about all the topics in this world. It will be receiving a blog post topic as an input, and it has to write a crisp and very humanly toned blog post for us. So now let's try and see if it works. I'll give the topic as Java. Okay, let's give it as Java and try. Okay, so it's generating. Okay, 1 minute. We forgot to give the length to Gemini. That is why it has written a very long blog post for us. So keep the word count at around 150 words. Do not cross this word limit. Okay. Now let's try to rerun this. Let's try to rerun this and see. Okay, there's no option to rerun, so I'll just delete this. I'll give it the same topic again and see what happens. Java. Okay. So I can see that the length is very less now, and hopefully it will be around 150 words or so, right? So let's try another uh, input and see if this is working properly or not. I can give something like Maruti Suzuki. Okay, let's see. Okay, so it was able to identify the Suzuki Swift car that I was talking about, and here also it has stuck to the limit of 150 words, right? So now what we'll do is, now that our prompt is more or less ready, right? So we can go ahead and try to integrate this. So once you hit this particular URL, collab.research.google.com, you will be redirected to this home page, right? So what we have to do now is click on file and click on new notebook in Drive. So it's loading. It takes roughly around a minute or half a minute to load up. So now this Google Colab notebook is now ready. So the first thing that we'll do is we'll just rename it and write something like blogger dot ipynb, right? It's giving a error, but we'll ignore the spelling and proceed. So we'll go back to the blog post generator that we have made in Google AI Studio. We'll click on get code. The Python code is here, and we'll click on copy. We'll go back to our blogger notebook. So now I've pasted the code inside of this blogger notebook. But if I run this right now, it will throw up an error, right? So as you can see, it has already highlighted one line here and it has thrown an error. So I already knew that this error will come because we have not done two things. The first thing that we have to do is we have to do a pip install of this Google generative AI, which will install the Google AI Python SDK. So the Google AI Python SDK has all of the code through which we can access Gemini, right? So what I'll do is I'll click on this plus code button, I'll move it up, and then what I'll do is I'll just copy this, click here, and then hit on run. So it has already downloaded the Google generated AI package and the rest of the other dependencies that were needed for Google generative AI SDK to run properly, right? So now if I come here, again I see one problem here. Inside, while initializing the genai.configure, right, this Gemini API key is again not proper. So we have to again generate a key or get an existing key from Google AI Studio and replace it here and then run. So let's go to our Google AI Studio. First, let's go ahead and save this. So this has been saved. This prompt has been saved. I'll go to get API key. I'll hop onto the project that I had created in my previous video. So I have a key here. I'll just copy this. I'll move back to my blogger notebook, and instead of fetching the API key from the environment variable, I'll just hard code it here for now. Okay. So the Gen AI configuration has happened properly. After that, whatever particular temperature and output tokens that we had set there, we can see that it is set here as well in the generation underscore config, right? So the model name being used here is Gemini 1.5 Pro. If we were using a custom fine-tuned model, then we would have gotten that particular model name here, right? As we saw in the advanced feature video of Google AI Studio. So system instruction it has captured here. It is exactly the same that we had given in the Google AI Studio uh, UI, right? And then inside of this chat session, it has given some of the initial chats that we had with Gemini, right, as some training data sets. And in the end, if you see, there is an option to give a message. So here we'll be adding something like, say, Python, right? So we'll give something like Python here, and then we'll try to run this whole notebook. So once you add the particular API key here, we are set to run this particular code base. So to summarize, what we are basically doing is we first did a pip install, right, of the Google Generative AI Python SDK. So that will just install all of the dependencies and all of the SDK stuff that is needed for our Google Colab notebook to talk to Gemini, right? And then if I go ahead in the second code snippet that you see, we are importing this particular google.generative AI as gen AI. And then the first thing that we do is we link to Gemini using our API key on line number 14. After that, we set the config that we had set in the Google AI Studio, like the temperature, the max output tokens and stuff. Here if you see, there is one extra field, response mime type. So here we are using it as text plain, but if needed we can also switch to a JSON based approach here. After that, the model name has been specified as Gemini 1.5 Pro. The generation config has been imported, which was defined as above here from line 18 to 24. Along with that, the system instruction is already in place, which we had given in the Google AI Studio UI. After that, one particular training dataset chat that we had with Gemini, that same chat is simulated here so that Gemini remembers what kind of a chat we are having, right? With some dummy inputs and outputs. Like, for example, we had given the input as Java and it had generated a Java blog post in Markdown for us here, right? And the same thing was done for Maruti Suzuki Swift as well. And it had generated one particular blog post in Markdown for that. Now what we'll do is on line number 63, we'll give the input as Python, the programming language, and see what kind of stuff Gemini gives us. So what I'll do is I'll first, this has been already installed, so we don't need to hit this again. I'll just run this and then wait for the results. So it's running, executing. You can see the time here, 6 seconds, 7 seconds. Voila. Here we have a blog post written on Python in less than 150 words. So here you can see it is also using Markdown. Now let's try something else here. We can give something like, say, Google here and see what it generates. I hit enter, it's loading. Google, more than just a search bar, right? It is also using emojis. Just Google it. So it has written a humanly toned and a very catchy small blog post for us. And this is how you can extract your code from Google AI Studio and put it outside anywhere you want. Like I chose this example inside of Google Colab. If needed, you can write your own custom Python scripts and you can import this code there and add a dash of AI to any application that you are making, right? So this was it for the demo. I hope you learned something new through this uh, series of videos, right? So thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you in the next video very soon.